years of age. And my parents were in the United States Foreign Service. So I grew up as an American embassy child, traveling around the world, starting at the age of 3. I was born in 1958, and we began traveling overseas in 1961. And how it works is you are assigned to a country for 2 years, and then you come back home here to the States. You're here for a little while, perhaps a few months, perhaps a year, and then you go back overseas to another country. So back and forth is how I grew up during my formative years of growing up and going to school. I did high school and college all here in the same place. But other than that, I was never anywhere for more than 2 years. Now, my first exposure to school was overseas. At the age of 3, 4, I was in preschool, kindergarten. And then of course, 1st grade, 3rd grade, 5th grade, 7th grade were all overseas. So being exposed to the school over there for my first experience, that set my baseline. That was my norm. And my classes overseas were filled with kids from all over the world. Anybody who had an embassy in those particular countries where my father was assigned, all of their children also went to the same school. So my classmates here, they were from Nigeria, Japan, Poland, France, Germany, Italy, Russia, wherever. Anybody who had an embassy, all of their children were at the same school. So I grew up in what today we call it a multicultural environment. But that was my norm because that's all I knew. That was my first exposure to school. In fact, the word multicultural did not even exist back then. It's still a relatively new word. So anyway, when I would come back home at the end of the 2 years, I would either be in all Black schools or Black and white schools, meaning the still segregated school or the newly integrated school. And even though in this country, desegregation was passed in 1954, 4 years before I was born, it didn't happen overnight. It took years sometimes for schools to become integrated, over a long period of time, even over 10 years. And so that's why I would still be in an all Black school or a Black and white school. Now, one of the times when I came back home, I was age 10 in the 4th grade, and I had gone to a newly integrated school. I was one of 2 Black children in the entire school, me in the 4th grade, and there was a little Black girl in the 2nd grade. And that was it. There were no other people from different countries and things like that. If some of you who may be old enough to remember Black and white TV, we went from Black and white TV to color TV, and it was great. We saw all these different colors. But for me, it was just the opposite. Coming from overseas back home, it was like going from color TV to Black and white, the reverse, because there was not a variety of people in the 1960s here in this country. So I was in the 4th grade. So most of my friends were all white kids, 4th graders and 5th graders. And some of my male friends were members of the Cub Scouts. Scouting is a thing that we do here in this country. There are Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, things like that. It's good for young people. And so I joined the Cub Scouts, and we had a parade, and we were marching down the street. Everybody was cheering and waving. It was all white people, no Black people. I'm the only Black person in this parade. And everybody I said was waving, smiling. And we got to one point in the parade route when suddenly I was getting hit with bottles and small rocks and soda pop cans. Just maybe 4 or 5 people were throwing these things from the sidewalk to my right. And because I never experienced anything like this, my first thought was, oh, these people over here, they don't like the Scouts. That's how naive I was. I did not realize that I was the only Scout getting hit until my Scout leaders, the adults, they came running and covered me with their bodies and escorted me out of the danger. And I kept saying, why? Why are they hitting me? I didn't do anything. Why are they hitting me? And all they would say is, shh, move along, hurry up, it'll be okay. So they never answered my question. At the end of the parade, I went home, and my mother and father were cleaning me up and putting Band-Aids on me. And they were asking me, how did you fall down and get all scraped up? I told them I did not fall down. I told them exactly what had happened. And for the first time in my life, my mother and father sat me down and explained to me what racism was. I had no idea what they were talking about. My 10-year-old brain could not process the idea that somebody who never saw me before, never spoke to me, who knew nothing about me, would want to hurt me for no other reason than this, the color of my skin. It made no sense to me. And the people who were doing this on the sidewalk did not look any different to me than my friends right here in the United States, who I was in class with, or my friends overseas, whether they were my American friends from the embassy, or whether they were my little French friends, my Swedish friends, my friends from Australia, or whatever. So my parents, they were not right. They were lying to me. And why they were lying to me, I did not know. But I knew people do not do things like this without a reason. And so I did not believe my parents. Well, about a month and a half, 2 months later, that same year, 1968, on April the 4th, Martin Luther King was assassinated. And I remember it very, very well. Every major city in the United States burned to the ground with violence and destruction, all in the name of this new word I had learned 2 months ago called racism. So now I understood. My parents had told me the truth. They did not lie to me. This thing called racism does exist. But while I accepted that, what I didn't understand was, why does it exist? Why do people hate each other just because of skin color? That was something I could not understand in my own mind. So I made a question for myself at that age. My question was, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? And now for the next 53 years, I have been looking for the answer to that question. So that's the background. Now we come forward. I graduated from college with my degree in music, and I have been a performer, touring this country, touring the world ever since. Between traveling with my parents in the Foreign Service as a child, and now as an adult, a performer traveling around the world, you take these two sets of travels and you put them together. I have been to 57 countries on 6 continents. Now, for some people, that's not a lot. For me, it's a lot. I met 2 people in the last 2 months. One man who had from Estonia, he has been to 160 countries, and another man here from the United States who has been to 125 countries. So I'm behind. But at 57 countries, I have learned a lot. And this is what I want to share with you today. One thing I've learned is this: no matter how far I go from my own country, whether it's right next door to Canada or to Mexico or halfway around the world, perhaps to Slovakia or Africa or wherever I've been, no matter how different the people may look from me, they don't speak the same language, perhaps they don't go to the same type of a worship place that I go to. Whenever I come back home, I always conclude one thing, and that is that we all are human beings. And because we're human beings, we all want the same basic 5 values in our lives. We all want to be loved. We all want to be respected. We all want to be heard. We all want to be treated fairly. And we all want the same thing for our family as anybody else wants for their family. And if we keep those 5 values in our minds, whenever we find ourselves in a culture or in a society with which we are unfamiliar, and we apply those 5 values, I will guarantee you that your navigation in that culture or that society will be a lot more positive and a lot more smooth. So one night I was playing music with a band. And again, I was the only Black person in this band. The band was an established band here in the state of Maryland, which is where I live right now. I'm from Chicago originally, but I live in Maryland now. And the band was established, and I joined the band, and they played at a place right outside of Washington, D.C., about an hour and 20 minutes from Washington, D.C. It was called the Silver Dollar Lounge. Now, the Silver Dollar Lounge had a reputation of being an all-white lounge. Not that Black people could not go in, but Black people did not go in because they were not welcome. Now, when you go somewhere and you're not welcome and alcohol is being served, it's not a good combination. It can be very explosive. So here I am in the Silver Dollar Lounge. And we just finished playing one set. We're taking a break, and I'm walking to the table to go sit down. And I feel somebody come from behind me, and they put their arm on my shoulder. Now, I don't know anybody in this place. So I'm turning around to see who's touching me. And it's this white gentleman. He's older than me. He has a big smile on his face. And he says, "Man, I sure like your piano playing." I said, "Thank you." And I shook his hand. And he says, "You know, this is the first time I ever heard a Black man play piano like Jerry Lee Lewis." Now, I was not offended, but I was surprised because this man was a lot older than me, and he did not know the Black origin of Jerry Lee Lewis's piano style. So I told him, that Jerry Lee and myself, we got it from Black blues and boogie woogie piano players. That's where that rock and roll, rockabilly style comes from. Well, he did not believe me. I said, "Listen, man, I know Jerry Lee Lewis. He's a friend of mine. He's told me himself where he learned how to play." He didn't believe that either, but he wanted to buy me a drink. So I go back to his table. I had a cranberry juice because I don't drink alcohol. And he takes his glass and he cheers me. And then he says, "This is the first time I ever sat down and had a drink with a Black man." And now I'm curious because, as you know from my background, I've been around people from all over the world. At that age, I had sat down literally with thousands of white people and had a beverage, a conversation, a meal, whatever. How is it that this man had never done that? So I asked him, I said, "Why?" And he did not answer me. I asked him again. His friend said, "Tell him, tell him, tell him." And I said, "Tell me." And he looked at me and he said, "I am a member of the Ku Klux Klan." The Ku Klux Klan is the first and largest racist organization in this country. It was founded in 1865. So this year it is 156 years old and is still here today. The Klan over history has had a long history of violence, murder, hanging Black men from trees, bombing their churches, all this kind of thing. And so when he told me that, I started laughing at him because I did not believe him. I know the Klan does not come up and put their arm around a Black person and praise their talent and then want to buy them a drink and hang out. It doesn't work that way. So I'm thinking, okay, this guy's making a joke. Yes, it's funny. And I'm laughing. He went inside his pocket. He got his wallet out and handed me his Ku Klux Klan membership card. I looked at it. I recognized the insignia, everything. This thing was for real. I stopped laughing. It was no longer funny. But he was very friendly, and we talked, and I got to know him. And every time I would play there, he would return, and he'd bring Klansmen and Klanswomen to see this Black man who plays like Jerry Lee Lewis. That's how he referred to me. And I got to know some of the people. Some of them did not want to talk to me. They didn't want to touch me, shake my hand, anything like that. which was fine. But I left that band and I went and did other kinds of music and I forgot about him. But then it occurred to me sometime later, Daryl, the answer to your question that you have been looking for since the age of 10, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? It fell in your lap. Who better to ask that question than somebody who would go so far as to join an organization that has over a 100-year history of practicing hating people who don't look like them or who do not believe as you believe. Get back in contact with that man from the KKK and sit him down and talk to him and get him to connect you with the different leaders in the Klan around the country. And you go around there and you interview them and write a book. So that was what I started doing. And I interviewed the Klan leader. First, I started here in Maryland, and then I branched out up north of the country, down south, the Midwest, the West. But I want to show you some instances or tell you some instances of some things, that happened and some of the lessons that I learned. I invited the KKK leader from my state to meet with me for an interview. Now, he did not know that I was Black. So when he arrived at the hotel room where we were going to do this interview, he came with a bodyguard. The bodyguard had a gun right here in his holster on his side, and he was wearing military camouflage. The Klan leader came in a Black suit and tie. And when the bodyguard walked into the room and saw me, he froze, because he was expecting a white man and he got me. Well, the leader was behind him and did not realize that the bodyguard stopped. So he walked into his back and knocked him forward. So now they're stumbling around trying to get their balance back. And I'm sitting at this table looking at them. And I can see in their faces that they're nervous because of me. They're looking for a white guy. And they're thinking, did the receptionist give them the wrong room number? Or is this an ambush? So I stood up. I went like this to show I have nothing in my hands, no threat. And I walked forward. I put my hand out. I said, hello. I introduced myself. And the Klan leader shook my hand. He shook my hand. And the bodyguard shook my hand. So far, everything's good. Now, I've been told by somebody who knows this man. They said, Daryl, do not fool with Roger Kelly. Roger Kelly was the man's name. It said, he will kill you. Just leave him alone. Well, I'm like, this is the whole idea why I need to see him. Why would he do this to me? I want to understand how he is thinking. So anyway, he came in, he sat down, and the bodyguard stood the bodyguard stood at attention to his right. I sat down just opposite him. In my bag, I had a recorder to record the interview. I put it on the table, and I had blank cassette tapes in the bag. So every time the recorder needed a new tape, I'd reach down to get it out of the bag. Every time I reached down, the bodyguard reached up to his gun. And he never took it out, but he put his hand on it. And so after a while, he understood there was no threat in the bag, and he relaxed. I went in, out of the bag, bodyguard didn't move. Now, Mr. Kelly and I are just talking, and maybe an hour, a little bit after an hour, we're talking, and there was a very strange, very fast noise in the room. It was like that was it, just that quick. And we all jumped. And I jumped up out of my chair because in my mind, this man had made this very strange noise that I did not understand. And I feared for my life, for my safety, because I'm already told by somebody who knows him that he will kill me. And plus he is the head of the Klan. I'm a Black guy. So it's not like, we're best of friends. So I'm concerned about my safety and my well-being. I jumped up out of my chair. I'm ready to attack him. And I'm looking into his eyes. And I did not speak to him. My eyes were speaking. My eyes were saying to him, what did you just do? Well, his eyes were looking right at my eyes. and he did not speak either, but I could read his eyes. His eyes were saying to me, "What did you just do?" And the bodyguard had his hand on his gun, looking at both of us, like, "What did either one of you just do?" While my secretary, Mary, she had come. She was sitting on top of the dresser because there were no more chairs in the room. She realized what had happened, and she began explaining it to us when it happened again. We had a bucket of ice sitting on the dresser with cans of soda to drink, soda pop, Coca-Cola, whatever else. We forgot about it. It's over here. And the ice began melting. And when the ice melted, the cans of soda fell down the ice. That was it. And so somebody almost got shot because of an ice cube. That's how crazy this was. But this was also a lesson. This was a teaching moment. And the lesson taught is this: all because of some foreign entity of which we were ignorant, that being the bucket of ice and cans of soda, because it entered into our little comfort zone and made us nervous, we became fearful. So the lesson taught is this: ignorance creates fear. If you do not check the fear and suppress the fear will escalate and create hatred, because we hate the things that make us afraid. If you do not check the hate and suppress it, it will escalate, becoming anger, and then it will create destruction. We want to destroy the things that we hate. Why? Because they make us afraid. But at the end of the day, they may have been harmless and we were just ignorant. So this is the lesson that I learned that day. We are ignorant and we fear the things we don't understand. And if our fear is not addressed, the fear escalates and becomes hatred, because we don't want to be afraid. We hate the things that frighten us. If we do not address and suppress the hatred becomes anger and creates destruction. We want to destroy those things that we hate. So this is something to keep in mind. Now, a lot of people, when they address problems like this, they address it from the top down. Some problems can be solved like that, especially if it's a corporation or a company, something like that. You want to address it at the top and then let it trickle down to the people on the bottom. Because if the management at the top of the corporation or the company is tight, everything is working right, then everything on the bottom will be tight. If the management up there is loose, then the people downstairs are loose, because they reflect the example they see from the leadership. All right. But now, when you're dealing with individuals, this top down does not always work. Sometimes it's better to address the problem from the bottom up. Now, what I'm saying is this: forget about the destruction. That's the top level destruction, the ultimate. Forget the destruction, all right? That is a symptom, that is a byproduct of the root cause. Forget about the hatred. Again, that is a symptom. Forget about the fear. That too is a symptom, a byproduct. The root cause, the nucleus of this problem is not destruction, not hate, not fear. The nucleus is the ignorance. If you can cure the ignorance, then there's nothing to fear, because we only fear that of which we are ignorant. You cure the ignorance, there's nothing to fear. With nothing to fear, there is nothing to hate. With nothing to hate, there is nothing to destroy. So let's cure the nucleus, the root cause, the ignorance. The good thing is this: there is a cure for ignorance. That cure is called education. And this is where we want to focus our energy, our resources, our time in providing more education for people. Just like today, they're putting on this panel here to educate people, to make people aware of certain things and learn from each other. You all have ideas about how we can solve problems. We all want to hear those. We all have ideas, and we put them together and we educate one another, because with that, we eliminate the ignorance. And after we eliminate the ignorance, a lot of the other problems will go away by themselves. Now, I'm going to show you an example of something, of how far I've taken this kind of thing. You may have heard in this country about almost 4 years ago, there is a city here in the state of Virginia called Charlottesville. Charlottesville is 2 hours from my house. And 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, they had a very, very large white supremacist rally, and different white supremacist groups all came to Charlottesville, and it became explosive. It was August 12th, 2017. And on that day, there was a lot of ignorance in Charlottesville. There was a lot of fear there. There was also a lot of hatred. And what did it culminate in? It culminated in destruction. When a white supremacist got inside his car and he tried to drive the car into the protesters to murder them, he succeeded in injuring 20 protesters and murdering one young lady named Heather Heyer. This is what I'm talking about. The ignorance creates the fear creates the hatred, and the hatred creates the destruction. There was a lot of things, a lot of violence in Charlottesville that day between the protesters and the white supremacists. Now, and the police that were there, they did absolutely nothing on that day. So today, Charlottesville has a new police chief because the last one was fired. They got rid of him and brought in somebody new. I'm going to show you a little footage of one of the things that happened in Charlottesville on August 12th. And let me just set it up for you. Let me share my screen here, if I may. Okay. All right, so what's happening here, before I roll the video, all these people here are white supremacists, and they are coming into this area in the middle of town, and you're going to see a black man with a let me just show you. Yeah, let me show you this thing first. You're going to see a black man with a flamethrower, and he's trying to spray with fire some of the white supremacists coming down these steps. The leader of the group walks by. He's wearing a black bandana on his head, a blue jean vest, and black jeans. He pulls out a gun, and he yells at the black man and points the gun at his head, and then he shoots, but he lowers the gun so he doesn't hit him. The bullet goes into the ground right in front of his feet, the black man's feet. And then the white supremacist, turns around and continues walking right past the police. The police saw this and they did nothing. And this is one of the reasons why Charlottesville has a new chief. So I want to show you this video. I'm going to run it. It's only 30 seconds. I'm going to run it for you twice so that you can see it. There he is. Okay, let's run it one more time. Okay. Now, this is what happened in that town on that day. As you can see, there's a lot of ignorance there, a lot of fear, a lot of hatred, and somebody almost destroying somebody else. This is not the country that we are. You know, this is a great country, but it can be a lot greater, a lot greater. And that's why I do the work that I do, because this is supposed to be the United States of America, not the divided states of America. All right. So the lessons that I've learned from traveling to many, many different countries around the world and realizing that we all are human beings are the same lessons that I apply in my work today, my work outside of music. Okay. You know, when you see something like that, what do you think? Don't think that, oh, well, that's, you know, Charlottesville. That's, you know, in the United States. It's not over here in Slovakia. Or people here in this country, they can say, oh, you know, that's Charlottesville. It's not here in Los Angeles. It's not here in New York. So I don't have to worry about it. This is not true. Anywhere there is hate, it doesn't matter if it's in Slovakia, Austria, Germany, United States, France, anywhere there's hate, something like this can happen. Okay, we remember it happened in New Zealand at Christchurch just a couple of years back. So anywhere there's hate, this kind of thing can happen. So what do you do when you see this? Well, the first thing most people do is they want to blame somebody. Okay, so let's blame some people. Let's play that game for a minute. All right, let's blame the white supremacists coming down the steps because they're causing trouble, and they're trying to hit this man with the flame. They're trying to hit him with their flag poles. They have some long sticks with a flag. They're trying to beat him with that. They get some blame because they should not have been doing that. Let's blame the black man with the flame, the fire. He's trying to put somebody on fire. He should not have been doing that. So he gets some blame. Let's blame the leader with the gun. He's shooting the gun. He should not have been doing that. He gets some blame. Let's blame the police because they did not do their job. They're just standing there like this in their green neon vests. You saw them doing nothing. So yes, they definitely get some blame. But maybe we should blame ourselves for allowing our cities, our countries, and the places in which we live and we love. Maybe we should blame ourselves for allowing these places to come to this situation in the 21st century. This situation does not belong in any century. We are in the 21st century. We have been to the moon. We went to the moon in the last century. How come we cannot fix this problem? So I'm going to tell you something. Sitting around and blaming people is a waste of time. You blame me, I blame you, we blame that person over there, and it goes round and round, and nothing gets solved. So what did I do? Let me share the screen again momentarily here so you can see what we got here. Okay. Here is There. That's the scene right before the video. We see the guys coming down the steps, and he is trying to put them on fire with a improvised flamethrower. Now, you saw the man in his regular clothing. That's him in his KKK leader's robe and hood, the Klan robe. All right. So what did I do? I called him on the telephone, and I said, "Hey, man," I said, "you know, you and I, we need to get together. We need to talk. Let's talk about American history. You know, you have your thoughts on the history of this country. I have my thoughts, but let's meet man to man, not Klansman to black man." He said, "Okay." So we set a date. I drove to his house by myself, no weapons, no gun, nothing. I go to his house, and I go inside his house. Everything around is KKK and Confederate stuff, racist stuff. I sit down in his living room with him and his Klans lady fiance, and I listen to them. They give me a 2-hour lecture, history lecture on American history, and from a Confederate point of view. Now, some things he got right, some things he got wrong, but I just sat there and I listened, because, you know, people want to be heard. So I allowed him to be heard, even though some of the things he was saying were wrong. I allowed him to be heard. Now, after 2 hours, he finished. It was my turn to give my lesson. First thing I did is this: I corrected him on the things that he got wrong, but I commended him on the things that he got right. And then, instead of me giving him a lecture, I said, "Listen, there is a brand new museum in Washington, D.C. called the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. It just opened shortly before all this. I said, why don't we set a date? You and me and your Klans lady fiance, I will take you down to this museum. You come to my house, we'll go down to the museum. Let's all of us explore it together and see about Black history." He said, "Okay." So we set the date. I got some tickets for us. They came down to my house. He and the Klans lady came to my house, and I put them in my car. We drove down to the museum. Now, here we are going into the largest Black museum in the world, Black History Museum in the world. There he is, and that's the Klans lady there and myself on the end. Now, what did we do in this museum? We looked at displays and exhibits on slavery, on integration, on segregation. We watched little video clips on Blacks in education, Blacks in music, Blacks in science, in medicine, all kinds of little clips. And you notice that he is holding his fiance. You see him holding her there. Now, one of his very favorite musical artists is Elvis Presley. Now, I love Elvis Presley. I saw Elvis 14 times. I met Elvis twice, and I played with his band after he had died in a tribute show. So I love Elvis Presley. But Elvis Presley did not invent rock and roll. My boss invented rock and roll, Chuck Berry. I played with Chuck Berry for 32 years, played the piano. Not every job, but many of them. So he likes Chuck Berry's music. Well, Chuck Berry had donated one of his red Cadillacs, cars, to this museum. So he wanted to see it. So I took him over there to see it. But again, remember, he's holding her there. So let's take this is a picture of, there I am with Chuck Berry. He's playing Johnny Be Good, Go, Johnny, go. Getting ready to go into his duck walk. So now we go to the other side of the museum where Chuck Berry's Cadillac is. There's Chuck Berry's car at the museum. There we are. Now look and see who is holding his fiance. That's how fast I work. So we toured this museum for almost 3 hours, about 2.5 hours. And the museum is so big, you can't take everything in that short amount of time. But I figure, 2.5 hours is good enough. So we go outside to leave, to go back to my house. And I walked and I stood over by the marquee for the museum. I gave the Klans lady, his fiance, I gave her my cell phone camera. And I said, take a picture of this guy and me. And so she took the picture. This is what he did, totally unplanned. There. Now, this does not happen overnight. This happens over time, over showing respect, letting people be heard, treating people fairly, those 5 principles, all right? He has come a long way since he took out that gun and shot that gun in Charlottesville. This would never have been accomplished without dialogue, conversation, and applying those 5 principles. Understand something. I did not respect what he had to say because I'm not a supremacist. I'm not a separatist. I'm not a nationalist. I'm not a racist, okay? I did not respect what he had to say, but I respected his right to say it. And so in turn, he respected me to say what I wanted to say. I let him be heard. I sat there and I listened. So in turn, he sat and he listened to me and allowed me to be heard. And slowly but surely, his ideology was beginning to change, all right? This is less than a year after Charlottesville. Charlottesville was August 12th, 2017. This was June of 2018. So just 2 months short of a year. Now, within a couple of weeks, or maybe 4 weeks, 3-4 weeks after this picture, he's going to marry that girl, the Klans lady, his fiance. So because I've been working with him for almost a year, he invites me to the wedding. He invites me to a white supremacist wedding. So I said, yes, I'll come. So then the girl, she is from another state. She's from the state of Tennessee, which is pretty far from here. Her father was too sick to come up this way to escort his daughter down the aisle and give her away to him. So rather than ask one of his trusted white supremacist members of his KKK group, they asked me if I will escort the Klans lady down the aisle and give her away. How crazy is that? I said, yes. So here I am escorting her down the aisle. And there we are after they get married. The white supremacist husband, the white supremacist bride, and the surrogate father-in-law. So this does not get accomplished by yelling and screaming and fighting and pulling guns. This gets accomplished by conversation. A missed opportunity for dialogue is a missed opportunity for conflict resolution. So, you must think of it like this. When 2 enemies are talking, they're not fighting, they're talking. Even if they disagree, they're still talking, they're not fighting. It is when the conversation ends that the ground becomes fertile for violence. So we always want to keep the conversation going. He still has a little ways to go, but as you can see, he has come a long ways and doing very well. So he's going now in the right direction. That never would have happened without conversation, without showing those 5 principles. Everybody in the world is a human being. They want to be loved, they want to be heard, they want to be respected, they want to be treated fairly, and they want the same thing for their family as you want for your family. So these are the things that I have learned and I have been applying, and as a result of my doing this, I've had over 200 white supremacists leave their organizations and give up that ideology. So I'm going to turn it back over to Zuza.
Thank you, Daryl. Maybe before we start the activity, if you have some questions or comments now to what just been said, you're free to talk, but please either raise your hand or, Milan, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Daryl, for your stories or several stories. I would like to ask you about this white supremacist leader. So he left the clan or the movement. Is he doing something to raise awareness of his story, or he just left and he's going on with his life, or is there any multiplication effect?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, thank you, Milan. Good question. Okay, there have been many. Now, some of them, they come out with me when I go and give a lecture. Some of them will come with me and they'll be on my stage together, and they renounce and they talk, like, you should not join these kinds of organizations. They make a strong statement against their former organization because they've cut it loose. But as a result, they also get threats, because when you join these organizations, that becomes your family. And now you have betrayed this organization, right? So depending upon their jobs, or if they have a family, like, young children or, young wife, whatever, they don't want to incur danger. So they kind of, they quit and they go on about their life very quietly. Others, if their kids are grown and moved on, whatever, they're not afraid to come out and talk about it because there's no threat to the children they've gone. So it depends. It depends on where they are in life. And sometimes, they have a good job and people don't know that, in their former life, they were a white supremacist. But when they find out, they don't shop there anymore. They don't do business with that company or whatever, or the boss finds out and fires them. So they kind of keep it quiet for those reasons also.
Thanks. So some other question? You still have some space or comment or whatever you like to. You can put the question in Slovak and we will translate it. No problem.
You will have to teach me how to speak Slovak, Zuza.
We'll get opportunity to that. Definitely. Miro.
Daryl, hi. It was great to listen to you. My question is, how far those 5 principles you have just named were your intuition, or you had that like instruction from somebody else? Are these 5 principles your own invention, coming from the observation of your parents and situation after your first experience of racism? Or is it something, is there a methodology which lies behind it?
No, those are what I came up with on my own. I'm sure others have come up with similar or maybe even the same. Being the son of diplomats, I wasn't consciously aware of what, I was taking in. Because, as a little kid, you think every little kid does what you do. And so those were stepping stones for where I am today. So I was seeing my father talk with people from different countries and different lands. His job was to represent the United States in a foreign country and to create better relations between that country and our country. And so I was always around at cocktail parties as a little boy or whatever, and I would see how people would do that. But I was not consciously aware And now looking back, I think that's where it comes from. Because you asked a good question. Would I be doing this today if I had not had that experience back then as a child, meeting different people from all over? Probably not. I'd probably stay as far away from white supremacists as I could. But I just view them as another culture. That's how I see them. And as a result, oftentimes people give me a hard time because, you know, it's not normal in their mind. For me, it is normal. You know, we want to bring people together, not to keep them apart.
So basically just repeat it to white supremacists, everything what you have heard from your father doing abroad. Yeah,
pretty much. But, you know, but here's the funny thing, Miroslav, is this. You know, when I was in high school, I'm getting ready to graduate to go to college. When I told my parents I was going to go to college and major in music and be a musician, oh my God, it was not good. It was not good. Okay. You know, you're gonna be a musician. What? How are you gonna make some money? You know, blah, 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 on and on, right? And because, you know, they had taken me all over the world. I met kings. I met presidents of countries. I met all kinds of, you know, diplomatic type people. So they probably thought, you know, I was gonna, you know, work for the State Department, you know, do something similar to what, you know, they're doing. And now I'm gonna be a musician. Are you crazy? So anyway, it was not good. But I went ahead and I became a musician. But now, you know, my parents are gone. They're not with us anymore. They're gone. But I'm sure they're looking down and they can see that I'm applying those diplomatic skills that I learned. But I'm applying them here, you know?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, we call it public diplomacy in a new, there is a new terminology for that.
Yes, well, you're helping me to make it global diplomacy, yeah?
Yes. Wonderful. Michaela. And after Michaela's question, we will start, and Natalia, and then we will start the activity. And please keep your other questions. We still get the time for them. But just to keep our schedule, we will take two more now. Michaela, please.
Hi, Daryl. Thank you very much for your story and your honesty and how you guided us through it. It was really nice. I have watched a few TED Talks with you and I have learned new things, even from this monologue you've had. But I was wondering, you have mentioned the principles that you use. What do the clansmen say to you when they leave the clan? Are those the things that make them leave? Like, what are the things that makes them like change their mind? Like,
okay, yeah, that's great question. Sometimes they apologize for being in the clan and being hateful towards me, you know, when they first meet me and things like that. But you know, a Klansman or a Klanswoman or any kind of white supremacist, you know, they're not standard. You know, they're individuals, so they have different reasons for leaving and when they leave. You know, they all don't leave in 2 months. You know, it could be years, it could be weeks. But what happens is something resonates with them, and it is allowed to resonate because of those 5 principles. And they will tell me, you know, that I respected them. I showed them respect. And therefore they listen to me. I want to show you just a quick clip to answer that question for you. Let me see if I can. Well, I'll get it ready and show it a little bit later for you. But they mentioned some of those principles: respect, and I listened to them. So I allowed them to be heard and I respected them. Again, I did not respect what they said, but I respected their right to say it. And one's perception is one's reality, whether it's real or not. If they perceive it, it becomes their reality. And you cannot change anybody's reality. If somebody believes something, don't attack their belief because they will defend it. What you have to do is give them a better perspective, give them a better perception, because if they resonate with your perception, they will change their own reality, because a person's perception is his reality. So you want to affect their perception, not their reality. You cannot change their reality. Only they can do that. And what you can do is you can offer them, show them a different perception. And if they like it, they will change their reality. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a 7 or 8-year-old brother, and he goes with his school to some magic show. And the magician says, okay, I need a female volunteer. Of course, 50 women raise their hand, right? And he looks and he points at you in the red shirt, you know, come on up here. And so she comes up, you know, puts a microphone in her face. What's your name? Where are you from? Okay. Then he says, okay, I want you to climb into this box. I want you to take your feet and stick them out that hole there. Take your head, put it out this hole here. So she gets up into the box. He puts her feet there, her head there, and he closes the top. He takes a chainsaw and cuts right the box in half. To your 7 or 8-year-old brother, he's like, oh, this man cut this woman in half. And then to make it more real, the magician takes one half, the feet, and moves it over there on the left side of the stage, and the head and the half of the head on this side of the stage to the right. And then he walks over to the head and he's talking to the head, and the head is talking back to him. To your 7 or 8-year-old brother, this man cut this woman in half and then talked to her. And then he brings the 2 boxes back together. He opens the top and the woman climbs out and she's full, no blood, nothing. So he comes home, he's telling you about this. And you're trying to tell him, well, no, that's not how it worked. It's an illusion. No, I was there. I saw it. You were not there. I saw it with my own eyes. He cut her in half. That's his reality. You cannot change his reality. And the more you try to change his reality, the more he's going to defend it and fight you. So what you do is don't attack his reality. Give him another perception. You say, maybe is it possible that the woman in the red shirt that he called from the audience, maybe she works for him. Maybe he put her in that chair and she knows the trick and she travels to all his shows with him. She works for him. And so when she comes up and gets in the box, there's already some mannequin dummy legs in the box, and the legs are wearing the same shoes she has on. So she takes them and she sticks them out the hole, and then she takes her own legs and pulls them up under her chest like this. So her whole body is in this half of the box. So when he cuts it, he doesn't even touch her body. And then he separates the boxes. So the dummy legs are over there and her whole body is over here. And then when he brings it back together, she pulls the dummy legs out, leaves them on the floor of the box, and she climbs out. So your brother's like, yeah, I guess that's the only way it can work. So then he changes his own reality. So you gave him a fresh perception for him to think about. That's what happens with these people, these white supremacists, or anybody. You, rather than attack their belief system, give them a better perspective, and they will change their own.
Thank you. Natalia.
If you hold on one second, I want to show this to Natalia, who asked that question. I'm going to share my screen here. One second. This is a Klansman. Oops, sorry. Let me just bring that back up here. Okay. All right, let me share the screen here. Okay, this is at a Klan rally. I've been doing this now for 37 years. And as you can see, I'm a lot more thin. I have more hair on my head here. This is towards the end of the rally. The fire on the cross is going out. So this is 28 years ago. This one is 5 years. This is in Maryland. This one is 5 years ago in the state of Missouri. And there were more people there, but the rally is almost over. So they're over here at the table getting food and drink and whatever. Now, what do I do at these things? As I told you, I engage in conversation, as you see here. Now, when I first came to this one, the man that you see me talking to with the green cross on his mask, he threatened me. He threatened me. Today, I get Christmas presents from him every year. Now we're friends. The man that you see on the left with no mask on, he was the leader for that Klan group. He was murdered 4 years ago. Okay, now this next rally here is to Natalia's question. What do they say? What makes them leave? Or what do they say when they leave? Listen to this Klan leader. He, you're going to hear him say that even though he and I would do different things together, it did not change his views on the Klan, because his views on the Klan had been cemented in his mind for years. And then he goes on to say how he believes in separation of the races. But listen to what he says about respect. And then listen to what the CNN news people say about it. This is Roger Kelly. This is the man who was in the room with me when the ice made the noise and we all jumped.
This is CNN.
Welcome to this final hour of CNN Sunday Morning. I'm Bob Kane, and today for Miles O'Brien.
Good morning to you all. I'm Joey Chen.
Friendship can transcend all kinds of boundaries.
Just look at us. And two men in Washington area are showing that even an African-American man and a member of the Ku Klux Klan can find common ground. CNN's Carl Rochelle reports.
Daryl Davis plays a hot piano. It's part of the show, and it makes him stand out. He also stands out here. Davis is one of the few African Americans you will ever find attending a KKK rally. More than attending, he is welcome.
I got more respect for that black man than I do you white niggers out there.
It's been a tough day for the Klan. Their Maryland rally found many local residents rejecting the message of white separatism. After it's over, Daryl Davis hangs around backstage with his friend, Klan wizard Roger Kelly. It's not unusual for blacks and whites to be friends, but it is unusual to find a black man and a Klan leader chatting pleasantly over an orange soda after a Klan rally. The relationship started over a book Davis was writing. His secretary set up an interview with Roger Kelly, but didn't tell him Davis was black. They talked and talked some more. Davis learning about the Klan, Kelly learning about Davis.
We get to know one another and we do different things, you know. It hasn't changed my views about the Klan, you know, because my views on the Klan's been pretty much cemented in my mind for years.
Kelly and his Klan friends go to hear Davis and his band. And Davis goes to their rallies.
I sat on the front row and listened to each Klansman speak. Some things I agreed with, other things I did not agree with.
Davis thinks that his presence promotes badly needed understanding.
Hate stems, I believe, from fear of the unknown, and I think this is all across the board, regardless of whether it's a Klansman or anything else.
But he has no illusions about the Klan. If he did, his friend would be quick to disabuse them.
I believe in separation of the races. I believe that's in the best interest of all races.
Does he really? Or has friendship transcended the color barrier? Listen to Kelly at a Klan rally.
I will follow that man to hell and back, because I believe in what he stands for and he believes in what I stand for. A lot of times we don't agree with everything, but at least he respects me to sit down and listen to me. And I'll respect him to sit down and listen to him.
The strange relationship of a KKK wizard and his black buddy. In Washington, I'm Carl Rochelle, CNN Sunday Morning.
Strange. Good adjective, strange.
Certainly that.
Okay, so now you heard the Klan leader, Mr. Kelly, say that even though he and I did different things together, it did not change his views on the Klan because they had been cemented in his mind for years. And then he goes on to say that he believes in separation of the races because he thinks that is in the best interest of all races. But towards the end, did you hear him say he respected me? What's that? He's the leader of the KKK. I'm Black. What he said was, we may not agree on everything, but at least he respects me to sit down and listen to me, and I respect him to sit down and listen to him. Those were his words, not mine. So Natalia, you heard what he said. He said he respected me because I sat down and listened to him, and so he sat down and listened to me. So those are those principles: respect, listening to each other, all right? Being heard is the same thing as listening. And then I treated him fairly. I listened to him, so he listened to me. It's a fair exchange. And that is what, we started out here. And the more we listen and respect each other to air our views, the gap closes. And now we have a relationship. And we keep on talking, and the gap closes some more. And by the time we get here, we're heading towards a friendship. And by the time you get here, the things that you have in difference, like skin color, or if you go to a church, a synagogue, a mosque, or a temple, it matters less and less. And so over time, all that listening and respect caused him to rethink his perceptions, and he changed his reality. And today he is no longer in the Ku Klux Klan. He no longer believes what he said on that CNN video. And as a result, he gave me his robe and hood. This is the robe that you saw him wearing in the video clip, okay? And of course, this here is the hood. This is the hood, this is the mask. Members who want anonymity, they don't want you to know who they are, they wear this mask and they look at you through these holes. If they don't care that you know their identity, the mask is attached with snaps, 3 snaps, or Velcro. They just detach the mask and the face is exposed under the hood. And I have a lot of these robes and hoods. And it's a result of having conversation, of talking, and showing those 5 core values. Now, let me say this. Not everybody is going to change. There will be people who will go to their grave. They will die being hateful, violent, and racist. But if somebody like that is willing to sit down and have a conversation with you, keep your emotions behind you. Don't let your emotions get in front and take you down and devolve the conversation. You know what you're dealing with. You know who you are. All right, so don't let them tell you who you are, and don't believe them when they tell you who you are. Have your self-esteem up, have an open mind, but don't be an egotist. Keep your emotions behind you and let them just get out all their insults, all their whatever, all their racism, let it come out. Because then when they do all this and you allow them to be heard, they're like wondering, I'm just insulting this man. How come he's sitting here? What does he think about this? And that's when they want you to, they want to hear you. But if you try to attack them, when they first see you, they don't like you. So their wall is up and their ears are like this, right? There's nothing you can say to them because you are inferior, they are superior. That's why they're called white supremacy, right? White supremacists. So you got to bring the temperature and the wall down. So just let them get it all out and the wall starts coming down. When the wall is down, that's when they can hear you. And then it makes sense and you give them fresh perceptions and perspectives. Now, the CNN people, they implied that I was strange. Well, you know what? If being strange causes people to give up this kind of stuff, we all need to be strange. That's my feeling.
Wonderful. Thank you, Daryl. but still there is one person at least who wants to pose another question. So please,
Sure.
Natalia, and that will be the last one before we start activity. And those of you who still want to ask something, there will be another choice after the activity. So please.
Thank you very much, Zuzka. I will try to be quick. I know that you guys need to move on to activities. Daryl, thank you very much. It really resonates what you said. And I'm also super interested a lot of maybe in more details of the methodology that you use. I understand the basic principle, but I'm very curious to the specific conversation that you had with the white supremacist that you took to the museum. If you can recall whether when he was saying historically inaccurate fact, whether you actually told him that, or you were just listening and not correcting him on the historical perspective when you were talking about confederation and etc. And the second part of the question is, you mentioned that you were meeting for a year, and if for each meeting you had some kind of topic you discussed, or it was just really spontaneous conversation. These are my two questions, because I also used to work with the white supremacists in Slovakia. So I totally agree with your methodology because it worked also for me, but I'm more curious in like specifics. But I know we don't have a lot of time, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, the second question first. When we would meet, over the year, usually it would be like social. I want him to get to know me as a human being, to humanize me, sit down and have lunch with me. He never had lunch with a Black man before, never, because that's not what they do. Right. So, but we all have to eat. We're all human beings. So, I have sat down with over 1 million people, I'm sure, in my lifetime of any color and had a meal, a beverage, a conversation. This was his first time. So we're just talking casually. I'm letting him get to know me. Oh, you like mozzarella cheese sticks? Yeah, I do too. So we order a basket and we're taking the cheese sticks from the same basket and eating them. If I want some salt, I take the salt shaker. He's using the same salt shaker. I'm making sure that we're sharing stuff. Not my first time sharing something with somebody, his first time of sharing something with somebody who does not look like him. All right. And so, I'm not telling him, hey, you see, I eat mozzarella sticks too. I use the same salt shaker, but I don't do that. I just let him absorb it. Because I know when he goes home, he has to think about this. Man, I had lunch with a Black guy, and he likes the same thing I like. We talk about the latest James Bond movie. Who do you like, Roger Moore or Sean Connery? This kind of stuff. So we make it casual. So what you're doing is you are humanizing each other. Because, when you see somebody face to face, it's hard to hate them. Yeah. So now to the first question, you were asking me, what did I do to correct him on the history?
Whether you did, because you mentioned the education is the cure, the ignorance, and that we need to educate. So I'm curious, when you have first contact with white supremacists, whether you correct him on the historical perspective, if he is using conspiracies or just wrong information. Yeah,
I absolutely corrected him because I know the facts on American history. What they do is they take whatever they want and they twist it to fit their own narrative that makes them top dog, makes them superior, Mm-hmm. So I pointed out different factual things that he was incorrect on to make him see them. And I know he'd go back and check them. Because, when you join these cults, they program information into you and they repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And to you, it becomes a fact. You don't even know, So I said, listen, I know this for a fact. This is what I think. If it's my opinion, I think such and such. If it's a fact, I say, I know this. Check it out. And let him go check it out and find out. And then when he finds out it's true, he's more receptive to anything that I say because I told him the truth. But see, they also use that same tactic to recruit other people. They know they're wrong, but they will take one thing that is true and give it to you. And then you think, oh, well, he's truthful about that. Maybe this other stuff is true. So that tactic can work both ways. So you got to be careful with that.
Did you ever experience that the person would say that the winners are writing the history, so it's not true what the historical books say? Because that happened to me, and
yeah, absolutely. Because they've been programmed to say that kind of stuff, But it's a matter of deprogramming. But again, what you have to do is you have to give them reason. Don't give them all the answers, but give them reason to go and look for it. Because when they find out themselves that something that they were thinking is not adding up, and then they discover the truth, and it reflects what you already told them, it's a lot stronger because they found it out. And then they began questioning everything else that they have learned. So it's always better, rather than you compel them to change, you give them reasons to check it out, and they come to their own conclusion. I need to refocus my ideology.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for this part. And now it's time for you to share maybe your stories or your attempts to talk to your enemy or somebody who is really different and maybe threatening you. Maybe you consider him dangerous or her. Whether you had some experience of this kind, and if yes, how it went. So for this, we will divide you into 8 subgroups. So there will be several people in a small group. And please try to talk for 20 minutes. And those of you who want to share this kind of experience, that would be very valuable for all of us. And to make it a little bit easier, also to record some of your thoughts in the groups, we would like to ask you to make your notes in a shared slideshow. I put the link into the chat, and so you talk, and according to the number of your group, you find your slide, and there is a space to make your notes. And you work in Slovak, obviously, or when we have everybody understanding Slovak here. So you work in Slovak, you talk in Slovak, you make your notes in Slovak, and when we come back, we will report, and then it will be translated for Daryl what you say. Is it clear? Yes. So let's go to small rooms then. Okay, is everybody here? Who wants to be here?
I gotta apologize. We didn't get time to get to Martin on my call, but
the time wasn't enough, at least for me, but it's absolutely okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Martin.
We are very curious about your discussions in the groups. So now, please, from each group, we would like to have one member of the group to report shortly either the most interesting thing, either the thing you were discussing the longest of all, or whatever impression you had, or interesting example you had. Just shortly. You don't have to repeat the whole discussion or everything you have mentioned in a group. So which group wants to start?
Okay, I'll appoint somebody. I'll appoint Martin from my group to give his overall observations.
Wonderful. Okay, Martin, can you can speak which language is more comfortable for you?
I think English is gonna be fine.
Okay.
Okay, so we were talking about our personal experiences, about the dialogues with extremist people and our experience with those part of life. And except me, our members told their experience. Most of them was experience from daily life, from how is a border between your point of view and their point of view, and how to deal with that, and how it works and how that doesn't work. So we talking about the in Slovak political concept most of the time, and Daryl said something from his point of view, and he gave us to advise what can be work and what not. So that was our group, and I didn't talk because we hadn't a good enough time. So my story, I didn't say my story, but it's absolutely okay.
If there will be time in the end, of course you can get the space. Yeah, any impression from some other group? Lenka. So Lenka is the next.
In our group, we have opened up the discussion with an interesting point that sometimes when the people are very different, it is difficult to even put them in one place as a prerequisite for an exchange. So and we were asking ourselves of how to make it possible that these people actually meet in one place in order to be able to start any kind of exchange. And we probably did not come to any conclusion, but we found it quite as an interesting thing. And the second thing maybe that I remember from our discussion is the genuine curiosity. When we want to engage with somebody of a different position, then to be really genuinely curious about the point of view of a person and trying to inquire into how is it, how the person sees the context, because I know my own thing very well, but I have no idea how the other person sees that because I'm not the other person. And if the others can add, I can't remember the rest.
Yeah, I think they are very important points or question. Is there anything you want to add, the members of the same group who was with Lenka? If not, Eric, did you want to say something?
No, I don't want. Thanks.
Okay.
Member of the group.
It's very difficult for us because it's too many of you, so we need to really check who is giving signs that he or she wants to speak. So, all right, let's go to the next group. Who wants to share where there was something interesting? We will not force you to talk, but it's just to give everybody space to speak and share something.
Ak môžem.
Milan, please go ahead.
Môžem po slovensky, že v našej skupine sme sa bavili o tom rešpekte aj na nadväznosti na Daryla. Konkrétny príklad som uviedol ja, že...
And I shared one example. Sometimes when, for example, I talk to the community of believers or churchgoers on the issue of LGBTI, they say that, okay, we are fine with it, but at the same time, they make steps to discriminate this minority. So yes, as in case of Daryl, they talked about it, they did exchange their views, but the clan has still been making steps, taking action to discriminate or to segregate. And the same applies to the religious communities in Slovakia. So we do meet with them, and if I were to believe that they respect me, well, then I should not see that they still spread some untruth that I'm an ill person or that they are ill persons. So I don't believe that there is acceptance and understanding. respect may be more than tolerance, but it does not seem to be sufficient. And there was another example. Martina was talking about her belief that she does not share with everyone at any time because she might encounter disrespect or intolerance.
Thank you very much, Milan. Yeah, I think we will give Daryl space to comment on this in the end. So what about the respect and how to deal with lack of respect? Is there anything else from the groups you would like to share? Adrian, please.
Interesting, like something like yoga is not respected in family when someone started practicing just yoga. Or Martina, she's a member of the religion group. I didn't know it existed. It's new for me. So that's interesting that she have mixed feelings about practicing this religion. Really interesting. And I figured out that the lack of education may be the real reason that our population not accepting the new religions or fully respecting LGBT community and so on. So more talking, more education might really help. That was really interesting for me from group.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Miroslav. Miro, unmute yourself. You're muted.
Yeah, we have mentioned in our group that sometimes we are interested in dialogue, but the counterpart after first meeting they just don't want to, or he or she doesn't want to continue, and then it's a question how to continue the dialogue, which is important, but the counterpart is not interested in it, or there is something sort of blacklist. They don't talk to some people, for example, yeah. Especially if they are like activists or strong representatives or leaders of that opinion they don't like, and especially the question of religion or national identity or these kind of things where that conviction is so strong. So one part can be interested in dialogue, the second part is not. So whom to talk to?
Wonderful. Okay, whom to talk to? It's an interesting question.
If I can add this, Gayatri Spivak is that can the subaltern speak or can the different person speak? Yes, they can, but who listens? That's the question. Never answered. It's important who
how to organize it such a way that the other person is listening, right? Okay, are there some other thoughts you would like to share with the plenary? Yes, Mary?
Hi, everyone. So I think our group went around kind of escaping or ignoring critical situation which could escalate. We had several examples of a person under drug influence who attacked the person from the back, and the person, it happened to just ignore the situation, and it helped because there were more people like that under drug substances. Or there was teaching a child after Crystal Bar where there was a shooting and a young man died. It's a famous case in Slovakia that, dear kids, if you see any conflict, just run, save yourself. So parents denied everything they've been teaching their children for 18 years under influence of this tragedy. When this young person died, they started to say to their children to save themselves. So, and then there was another example staying calm at the blog post at Donbass, when the person was not attacking verbally, but unverbally entered the physical and personal space and was asking the standard military questions, where you've been as the group and so on. And there were more information around, but the solution was to stay calm, to put emotions aside and just to answer questions which were true or not. And then there was just one little fact that the person was so close because the person was looking at the eyes where this black part is becoming larger or smaller if the person who answered it lies or not. But I think the common ground and common idea in our group was somehow, in the name of not escalating the conflict, that dialogue would be really maybe counterproductive. Of course, it depends on the situation. So this is interesting. We are peaceful people, probably we were in this group, or I don't know how to name it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
Yeah, this is also interesting point when you don't feel safe yourself and you don't feel strong enough to stay or to stand the situation, that sometimes is not a good opportunity to talk. Maybe escape is the good strategy in certain situations when we face potential violence. Okay, something else. Yeah, Daryl, you want to comment? I just summarized what were the issues people were mentioning. LGBTI problem, how to discuss when I feel that there is no respect on the other side, how to deal with this situation, whether talk to somebody when we know that the other side is not listening, how to put into one place people who don't want to get together physically, what to do with when people are just scared or afraid to show their own identity, like minority religious group, that people are afraid that if they show up, they may be not respected well. And then, yeah, how to deal with potential violence or how to behave in such situations.
Sure.
So Daryl, go ahead.
Absolutely. You don't want to put yourself in harm's way. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where violence can erupt, especially if you're not used to that kind of thing, or you've had no experience with violence. You don't want to be there. Not everybody is equipped emotionally or physically to be on the front line, but that does not mean that there's nothing for you to do. If you can't be on the front line, you can be on the back line. You can be on the sideline. You can be online. You can be doing something to help the overall situation, because it has to be teamwork. I look at it like a movie. Most of us who go and watch movies, that we like, we think, oh, that's a great movie. That actor was fantastic and blah, blah, blah. And all you know is the name of the movie and the actor or the actress or, the stars. But you don't realize the reason why the movie was great. Yes, the acting was superb, but also the people that you don't see are equal partners. The director, the person behind the camera, filming, you give them the right angle and all this. That's what makes the overall movie successful. And so these people also need credit, not just the people, the stars on the front line, not just the people who go to the protests and they're there, whatever. You can be on the back line, you can be on the sideline, you can be online helping to promote something or whatever. So we all have to work together. Find out where is your strength. If somebody insults you, is it going to make you angry and then you're going to want to retaliate and beat them up? Well, then you don't need to be there. Is it going to make you feel bad and hurt? Then don't be there. Are you in danger? Don't be there. First thing is self-preservation. All right. And you can help those people who are stronger in that area by being on the support side. Just like, we can't do what you do. you know? So we all have to work together. And that's, you know, that's how we solve that problem.
Mm-hmm. We have quite several teachers in this group. So I think this is also a kind of role that maybe not always they are visible, but they are maybe behind this education part of young people.
Yeah, you know, it's like this. When, let's say you have a situation, and I know we have a lot of those here in this country, maybe not in Slovakia, but sometimes this kind of crazy thing happens. Some man will become enraged. Maybe he lost his job, whatever, and he goes crazy. He comes home and he has his wife and his children as hostages with a gun. And we've seen this many, many times. He shoots his wife, shoots his children, and then he shoots himself, you know? So when this kind of thing is taking place, where he has these hostages and he's going crazy, everybody from the police department comes. Well, let me back up. If it's just, let's say, a domestic dispute, right? It's usually two officers in uniform. They come, they take the husband to this room, take the wife to that room, and they talk with each other. Then they bring them together and say, okay, now you all need to calm down, you know, because if you don't calm down, we're going to lock you up and put you in jail. So they calm down and they leave. But when it's a situation with a hostage, then it's not just those two uniform officers who come. There are many different components of the police who come. You got the officers in the uniform. You also have the SWAT team. Zuza, do you know what the SWAT team is? Yeah, you probably have another name for it. And the officers in uniform, they're standing back away from your house, you know, with a megaphone, bullhorn, right? And the SWAT team, they're up close. They're at your front door. They're at your back door. They're at the window on the side. They might come down from a helicopter on top of the roof. You know, they got the house surrounded. So you got the uniform, the SWAT team, and you got another one from the police department, the hostage negotiator. He's on the telephone trying to call you in the house. Hey, you know, everything, calm down. You know, everything's going to be okay. What do you need? Just let one of your children out the door. Just let one person go, please. You know, we'll give you what you need, blah, blah, blah. He's negotiating, right? So you get these three different entities of the police. Each one is a specialist in what he or she does, and they are coordinating with each other. So if the two uniformed police officers, if the person inside the house with the gun is responding to the officer in the megaphone, then everybody tamps down and they rely on this person because he's making contact. The person is responding. If the negotiator is talking to the man and he's cooperating, the negotiator says, okay, don't shoot anybody, just calm down, you know, let me handle it. Everybody looks to him. They put him in charge. If the sniper and the SWAT team, you know, has a bullseye on the person's head, he can kill this man without hurting the wife or the children. Boom, the guy is gone, finished, done. Okay, the main objective is to free the hostages with no other casualties. So if the sharpshooter can take him out, everybody looks to the sharpshooter. If the uniformed people have it under control, if the negotiator has it under control, whoever does it, but they all are cooperating with each other. And that's why I say it's important that, you know, racism, supremacy, discrimination is a multifaceted problem. It's not just monolithic, it's not just one facet, multifaceted. So therefore you must have multiple people all specializing in what they do. And this person may not be able to do what that person does, but together they can achieve a whole lot more.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Maybe now is a time for break. If there are no urgent comments or questions, I don't see anybody raising hand. So let's have 12 minutes. So it's let's do it until quarter past 4 Slovak time. Is it okay? Yes.
Yeah, sure.
I have to be careful because I'm specialist in putting very, very long breaks to my participants. So I have to be careful with that. Good. So 4:15, 4:45, we meet each other. Sa stretávame tu. The next part of our session, we would like to devote a little bit different problem, maybe more current. And we asked Daryl to talk about what's happening now in the United States with the movement Black Lives Matters and other issues that are on the agenda that maybe it's interesting to hear from the first hand. So please, Daryl.
Okay, thank you again, Zuza. It's a pleasure to be back here again. We have a lot of things going on in the United States today. And now this is my opinion. And I'm sure there are people here in this country who may disagree with me. And I'm sure there are a few who probably agree with me. But I think that we are in the best time in this country's history right now, despite everything negative that's going on. Yes, what you see is going on. We have coronavirus. It's already killed 500,000 people in this country, 500,000 something. So that's bad. We've had the George Floyd incident, which I'll talk about momentarily. The protests, more people getting shot, because they're Black, because they're riding their bicycle, because they're sitting in their car, whatever. All of that is bad. We've had a president that has given license to white supremacists to do whatever they want to do, or in their minds, they feel that he has given them agency to do all this. That's bad, but this is the best time because this country has been very slow to address these issues. I have been in this country for 402 years as a descendant of slaves. Slaves came here in 1619. So that's 402 years. We are still dealing with the effects of slavery and racism and discrimination, because even though the Civil War, which was fought between the North and the South of the United States, the Confederacy and the Union, even though that war ended in 1865, it did not end racism. The South was fighting to keep slavery. The North was fighting to abolish it. And even though the North won, then you had to deal with segregation and discrimination, because the attitude was, okay, slaves were not human beings. They were property in these minds. You bought people on the courthouse steps. You went to the courthouse and people were selling people as property. You want that young boy, you want that young girl, you want that big, strong Black man, you want that Black woman, okay, so it'll cost you $100, and you're buying people. That's what slavery was. My ancestors, my great-grandparents were slaves that were bought and sold, all right? And so now that slavery is over, the people feel that, okay, so we cannot own you anymore as property, but you will never be my equal. You will always be here. So we're on top: supremacy, superiority, inferiority. And over the 400 years of this country and slavery, we progressed like this. Slaves on the bottom, white supremacy on top, like this. Maybe like this, but never like this. So that's where we are. And this is what we're seeing happening today. The insurrection at the United States Capitol, which is our body of government in this country. You saw over 1,000 people go inside that building and wreak havoc and destroy stuff and act all crazy. People dying. One young lady got shot as she came through the window. and somebody killed a police officer, hit him in the head with a fire extinguisher, and one tried to crush the officer in the door. There are thousands of people outside in that march. You did not see very many people who look like me. All right. What's happening in this country is this. When I was a child, the Black population in the United States was 12%. Native Americans, American Indians, 1%. Hispanic people, Latino people, around 2%. Asian people, near 3%. White people, 84, 86%. So for the people with the mindset of supremacy, the biggest problem were Black people, 12%. That's too much, and we need to shut them down. All right. Today, Native Americans are still 1%. Black people are still at 12%, 12.9, almost 13%. So we really have not increased from 12 to 13. That's not much. Asian people have doubled. They're like around 5.9, almost 6%. So from 3% to 6%, it's doubled. Hispanic, Latino people, they were at 2% when I was a kid. Now they're at 17 point something percent, almost 18%. So if you take just 12% Black people plus 17% Hispanic people, don't forget about the Asians and Native Americans, just these two, 12% Black, 17% Hispanic, that right there is 29% non-white. This is happening, okay? It is predicted in the year 2042, which is 21 years from right now, this country, the United States of America, for the first time in history, will be 50-50. 50% white, 50% other, Black, Latino, Asian, whatever, okay? That has never happened before. Now, there are plenty of white people in this country who welcome that. It's, hey, no big deal, it's not a problem. I welcome that, I don't have a problem with that, it's okay. And there is another segment of the white population in this country that are going crazy about this. They don't want that to happen. They want to maintain supremacy, maintain the majority, all right? And because when you have sat on the throne of power for 400 years, you do not want to get off. Look at the last president, Donald Trump. He sat on the throne of power for just 4 years. He didn't want to get off. He tried to overturn the election, you know? So, you know, power is something that people do not want to let go of. Even as a musician, if you have a #1 record on the top of the chart, your record is #1, you don't want to come down to number 100. You want to stay at #1. It's you know, that's a normal thing, but some people go a little too far. Well, what's happening in this country is this. As I told you in the first portion, when I went to school here in 4th grade, there were only 2 Black children in my whole school, not just my class, the whole school. Me in 4th grade and a little girl, Black girl in 2nd grade. Everybody else was white. When I marched with the Scouts and people threw things at me, I was the only Black person in that march. Everybody else was white. When I played in the bar with the band and the Klansmen approached me, I was the only Black person in the band, okay? So now things are changing. The color of America is changing, and it's becoming more and more non-white. So for the people who are supremacists, they are going crazy because they think their identity is being erased. So, you know, I'm a white nationalist, you know, this is my country, blah, 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 whatever. They think their identity is being erased. And what they tell me, the Ku Klux Klan, the neo-Nazis, the alt-right, these people who I know, they say to me, Daryl, I don't want my grandchildren to be brown. They call it the browning of America, white genocide through miscegenation, race mixing. So they are trying to recruit as many people as they can to come join the cause. And how they do it, they try to make you think that they are legitimate. Because in this country, illegal immigration is a big concern. So they say, hey, come join us. We're gonna fight immigration. We're gonna help stop it. We're gonna send those people back to where they belong. We're gonna build that wall, on and on. But see, when the white supremacists in this country talk about illegal immigration, they are not talking about people from Canada or people from the UK or people from Eastern Europe that are here. There are plenty of people here from Canada, the UK, and Eastern Europe who are here illegally because maybe they came legally, but sometimes they overstay their visa or whatever, and they don't renew it, and they're here illegally. But the white supremacists don't care about that, because if their children were to marry one of these people, the grandchildren would be white. But the people from El Salvador, Guatemala, Nigeria, places like that, oh, no, no, no. We can't have my children marrying those people. Then my children will be brown. That's what they're concerned about. So when I first started this kind of work 37 years ago, there were only a few groups, the KKK, the neo-Nazis, the white power skinheads. That's it. Today, you got the KKK, the neo-Nazis, the white power skinheads, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, the 3%ers, alt-right, on and on, all these groups. And they said, come join us. We're going to take our country back. We're going to take our country back. So people who are afraid go and join these groups. But then here's the problem. When the group fails to take the country back, and make America great again, that was Donald Trump's slogan, make America great again. Well, who is going to say again? If anybody on this call was going to run for president of Slovakia or wherever, we all would say, I'm going to make this country great. We would all say that, because if you didn't say that, you have no business running for president. You want to make your country great. But who is going to say, I'm going to make this country great again? Again, how far back is again? Was again back when I was drinking from a separate water fountain? When I had to sit in the back of the bus? When I couldn't go to school with somebody who was white? I had to go inside the back door? Was that when again was? Who's going to say, I'm going to make my country great again? So, but see, that resonated with the white supremacists. That's why they were so interested in Donald Trump. This is our man. We must overturn this election. He's the best thing that has happened to us. I think, in my opinion, I did not support Donald Trump politically. I played for him a long, long time ago, music, for a concert, but I did not support him politically. But I think he is the best thing that has happened to this country. And let me explain that. Because of him, all of this stuff is coming up. Not through any intelligent design of his, because I don't think he has that kind of intelligence. But I believe that because of him and all this rhetoric, that we are now forced to address these problems of female abuse, of racism, and things like that. Because in the past, America did not want to address that. They did not want to talk about it. You put it under the rug, lock it in the closet, don't talk about it. It's taboo. Now it's in your face and you have to address it. So this is what's happening. So now when these groups recruit people and say, come join us, we're going to take our country back, people go and join the group. But when the country does not, when the group does not take the country back, some of these people get frustrated. And they say, you know what, if the KKK cannot do it, or the neo-Nazis can't do it, I'll do it myself. And solo, they walk into a black church, boom, 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 or into a synagogue, boom, 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 this kind of thing. These people are called lone wolves. They're acting by themselves, alone, right? So we have intelligence agencies, FBI, all this kind of stuff, who have agents who look, they fit the part. They can join these groups undercover, and they gather the information, intelligence, and report it, and then we squash the plot. We can do that with a group, but you cannot infiltrate a lone wolf. It's only one person. How do you get inside one person? So as we get closer and closer to 2042, this country is going to see, unfortunately, more and more lone wolves. And every time one of these lone wolves gets shot and killed by law enforcement, or they get arrested, and the law enforcement goes to their house to do a search, what do they find? They find a large collection of automatic weapons. And this is for the race war. They call it RAHOWA, R-A-H-O-W-A, RAHOWA, which stands for Racial Holy War. And that's what they're looking for. And so this is where they're headed. And this is what going into the Capitol was all about, to overturn the election, because they feel their identity is being erased. And you see, when Obama got put into office, they went crazy. Never had a Black president before. And their slogan was, wake up, white people, because they were sleeping. They let a Black person get inside the White House. What happened? You know? So this is a problem for them. And now most white supremacists, in this country at least, they're also male chauvinists. You know, they think that they're superior to women as well. So women, even the women in the group, they are not permitted to rise to the high offices within the white supremacy movement. They keep them subservient, right? So now they are going crazy because they don't like Joe Biden. You know, they wanted Donald Trump. They don't like Kamala Harris, the vice president, but she's a woman and she's Black. But now they're kind of caught because they have to protect Joe Biden. Because if Joe Biden dies while he's in office, guess what? We're going to have a female president, a Black female president. That's making them go crazy. So they're hoping that Joe Biden will finish the 4 years and then they will run another candidate, maybe Donald Trump, maybe somebody just like him or whatever. So because they don't want, you know, that Black woman to become president. So for the next 4 years, they got to protect Joe Biden. So it's kind of a catch-22, but that's what's happening. Now, to George Floyd, you know, in our civil rights movement, if we want to pick a starting time, we can go back to, say, 1955 with a lady named Rosa Parks, who was a Black woman who refused to give up her seat on the bus. How it worked back then was, if you're Black, you get on the bus in the front, you pay your money, your token, your coin, then you have, if you're Black, you have to get off the bus after you pay, get off the bus, walk down the sidewalk to the back door, and then come back in the bus. You cannot walk through the bus. If you're white, you get on the bus in the front, pay your token, walk down, sit down. If you're Black, you have to get back off, walk down, and then get in the back door. Craziness, right? So what James Blake, that was the name of the bus driver, sometimes what he would do is, when a Black man would get on the bus in the front, pay the money, get off, walk down to the back, get on, James Blake would close the door when the man put his foot on the step and catch his foot in the door and drag him up the street. You know, this is how crazy these people were. So anyway, Martin Luther King organized the bus boycott with Rosa Parks, and she refused to give up her seat to a white man. And it took almost a year to make this boycott successful. And then finally, the Montgomery, Alabama bus company changed their law, said, okay, Black people can sit wherever you want to sit. And so then all the Southern states began changing their laws. Martin Luther King was a genius. He was brilliant. So now, and he had, as you know, he had many, many marches and protests and things like that. In the 1950s, and from 1955 and through 1968, when he died, there have always been a small number of white people who joined us in our marches, in our protests, in our boycotts, in our demonstrations, because these white people, they were visionaries. They saw this is the right thing to do. You know, we need to come and join them. So there's always been a small number of white people. However, the power structure is white. So when they look at the protests, they see a big ocean of Black people and just a couple white people. So the power structure, they shut their ears, they don't listen. You know, they don't care about what happens down there. There's too many Black people. Now we're going to fast forward to today, to last year, 2020. George Floyd was murdered by a white police officer who choked him to death, you know, for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. What happened? Well, look at the marches from last year compared to the 50s and 60s. You see a large ocean of Black people and a large ocean of white people mixed in, marching together. It's not just a few white people, it's a lot of white people marching with these Black people. As a result, the changes began happening a lot faster because of the collective voice of Black people and white people working together for the common cause. In the past, we only had a few white people. The change was very, very slow. Now it's a lot faster. And this is something that we need to see, and we need to focus on recruiting, get more people to come together and see this. One of the things that helped this, as bad as it was, is the coronavirus. Now, I'm not praising the coronavirus, of course, by any means, but the coronavirus helped facilitate this, because what happened last year when the coronavirus hit? Everybody's work shut down. You had to stay at your house. You know, you couldn't go to work. Work was closed. So what do you do when you're home during a pandemic? You watch TV. You get on the internet. You know, you're looking at YouTube, you're looking at Facebook, you're looking at whatever you're looking at. What do you see? You see a Black man being murdered by a police officer, a white police officer. And people are trying to say, hey, he can't breathe, let him up, he can't breathe. The man is not resisting. He's lying on his stomach. He's handcuffed behind his back. You got two people, one officer sitting on his legs, the other officer sitting on his back, the third officer kneeling on his neck, and the fourth officer standing on the sidewalk, holding everybody back. This is a murder. This is a systemic, orchestrated murder. And you're watching it on TV, watching it on the internet. And you think, oh my goodness, this is what those people have been talking about. You know, these Black people, I must do something. And despite the risk to their own health, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of white people came out in the streets and marched with us during a pandemic. It was that collective voice, all those white people and all those Black people marching together for the same cause that made the progress move a lot faster. We have never seen progress move this fast in 400 years. That's why I say this is the best time. Yes, it must be much better. It must come much better, but this is the best we've ever seen. You know, I'm not taking anything away from Dr. King or anybody else, because all of that was necessary to get to where we are today. Those were stepping stones. We are stepping stones for the future, but there has never been faster progress than right now. Black Lives Matter, you asked me about that. Black Lives Matter is not really an organization, it's a movement. The idea behind it, again, this is my opinion, and I don't speak for everybody. My opinion is this. The idea behind creating it was a very good idea. They got the idea from Martin Luther King, you know, because what he did was the thing that was going on with the buses in Alabama. If you lived in California, or you lived in New York, you didn't hear about it. It didn't make the national news. It made local news in Alabama or down south, but not all across the country. So Dr. King, he wanted to put the national spotlight on this trouble in Alabama so the whole country could see it. And then with everybody looking at you, it's going to compel you to change. So that's a great idea. That's what he did. He made sure the boycott got national press, national news, so the whole country could see what was happening to Black bus riders in Alabama. And it worked. So the people who founded Black Lives Matter, they said, we need to put the national spotlight on the situation with Black men who were holding their cell phone and they're getting shot because the cop thinks, oh, it's a gun. I thought it was a gun, boom, 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 you know, or getting shot in the back, getting shot for being unarmed. This is happening every day, seems like. So they wanted to put the national press attention on this. So they formed Black Lives Matter. However, the founders, they did not want to centralize the, or you know, this group. They did not want to have one president and then chapters and all that. They just wanted to make it organic. My opinion is that was a big mistake, because now you have 80, 90 different factions of Black Lives Matter all over the country, different groups. Some groups are very aggressive. Some groups are very, they want to sit down and talk with the politicians. Hey, let's write up a new legislation, write up a new bill to pass this and do something here. They want to work legitimately. Others want to fight. So they're all over the place. You know, one group does not represent all the other groups. They don't even know each other. Unlike, you say, the Boy Scouts of America, the Red Cross, or some other organization, they're centralized. There's headquarters, one president, policy is created here, and then policy is given to all the chapters around the country. So the Red Cross chapter in New York City is the same as the Red Cross chapter in Los Angeles, California. It's uniform, so everybody's on the same page. With Black Lives Matter, that's not the case. You know, they're different chapters and they all have different ideas. It's like having too many cooks in the kitchen trying to make the same recipe. It doesn't work. So Black Lives Matter has come, you know, they've come a good ways, but now it's not so good because you got certain groups doing bad things and other groups doing good things. But of course the press, they capitalize on the bad things. So it paints a negative picture for all the groups that are doing good things. There's some groups of Black Lives Matter that like me, and there are others who do not like me at all. They hate me, they think I'm a race traitor because I sit down with the white supremacists, I talk with them, all that kind of stuff. You know, they don't like that. But I got maybe 6 groups that have contacted me and said, hey, do you give workshops? Can you teach us to do what you do? And then there are others, you know, I don't want anything to do with you. You're a race traitor, blah, blah, blah. But it would be a lot better if they had uniformity, because it started out as a very powerful thing, but now it's very divided. There are people who don't like them, people who do like them, and you just don't know. You know, so if you want to donate money to Black Lives Matter, who are you going to give it to? There's no central organization.
Okay, Daryl, I would like to give some more space for questions of our participants. So yeah, now is the time. If you would like to ask something about what was just said, please go ahead. I myself have a couple of questions, but I want to give the floor to you. Milan, please go ahead.
I have a comment. It's very inspiring, this Black Lives Matters, how actually it continues and it's really not centralized. Just came to my mind the parallel with LGBTI movement, not only in Slovakia, there are also like different communities, different world. There are some organization which at some point also say we do not represent the whole gay community, or we are doing maybe some activism on the legislative level, but not on the level of, you know, some counseling or reducing discrimination. This is something just I need to think about it and think about the pros and cons of this. Like if it's ever possible to have a centralized organization for, but if we talk about Amnesty International, for example, as a centralized organization for protecting of human rights, this seems to be working, let's say, right? They have branches, but we all agree on one concept of universal human rights, right? That's
exactly.
Which is being challenged, of course, at some point, but this is, but I can't find maybe other examples of this. So this is really inspiring and it challenges the
well, I think, you know, when Black Lives Matter was born right after Trayvon Martin was murdered in 2013. And like I said, it was a great idea, but it should have been structured a little bit. But I think at the time, of course, the founders who created it, they had no idea how big it was going to become all over the world, you know? So maybe if they had that, you know, that foreknowledge, they maybe would have centralized it, because there's obviously a lot more strength when people are unified, you know, in your organization or your group. But when you got people using your name and they're not doing what you think should be done, then there's a lot of dissension, a lot of, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing with as a result of Donald Trump and all of his negativity towards women and abuse. A new movement was created here called the Me Too movement for women. But again, it was not an organization. It wasn't centralized. And now there's infighting and they don't get along. It's falling apart.
Yeah, and the same goes in Slovakia, goes for the Roma community. I mean, the whole thing, there are only certain organizations, we are scattered, but there is no one, I would say.
One voice.
One voice. Interesting.
Okay, thank you, Milan. Miro, please go ahead with your question.
Daryl, it was again inspiring. I have the question regarding collective cause or collective movement. In a way, after 400 years, it is natural that white people joined black people, but we don't have 400 years. And what I see, there are certain minorities, like Milan mentioned, like LGBT community, Roma community, then for example, handicapped people, and they have their separate but very small causes, and they don't have enough, or they don't have impact big enough to change the mentality in the society. Is there, in the sociology, they invented so-called crossed identity, that you find a sort of common denominator that people can unify and can fight together, something like in Great Britain when LGBT and minors joined and supported this change in the society. Is there something where those minorities can march together and speak for social change, or for something where people under the oppression, because the oppression is still there and somehow racism and sexism and anti-feminism is somehow connected with that oppressive mentality, like you mentioned, how those people were able to identify themselves with Donald Trump because they had something, they had software somewhere which was working in the same way. Do you have like a general recipe how to create collective cause and how to create this new identity? Yeah, that we are all humans, but this is such a big statement that nobody is able to read it with practical consequences. And it's obvious, but it's not that easy to find that common denominator.
It's not easy, but here's what has to happen. All right, just like the example I gave you of the white people marching together with the Black people last year, as opposed to 1955 or 1964 or whatever, is a big difference in the composure of the group. You know, for the LGBT community, for the Roma people, you know, yes, it's good for them to come together with each other, but it is more important and imperative that they come together with the people who are not like them. They need to find those people who can support them and to join in with them. Because when people who are anti-Roma or anti-LGBTQ, BT, when they can find people who will join them, who look like the people, you know, that oppose them, that is much more stronger. Because I just lost my train of thought. Everybody who is LGBTQ, they may have brothers, they may have sisters, who may not be LGBTQ. So we say LGBTQ over here. I think you said LGBTI or something like that. But anyway, you got the same group. These people, they have siblings, they have brothers and sisters who are straight. So get their friends to come march with it. Not just a march of nothing but LGBT. I can't say it again, LGBT. I always want to say Q on the end. Not just, you know, a monolithic group. You need to bring in people from the outside. That's what creates the change, when you have a collective voice. First, get yourself together with everybody and agree on something, and then bring in other people. Bring in, you know, your sisters, your brothers, their friends. So you build it that way, organically. You build it out so that the people who are anti-LGBT can see people who look like them, who are straight, also defending them. That's what brings about the change. It brings it a lot faster. Same thing with the Roma people. They cannot do it by themselves. They need people who are non-Roma to join in their cause. The Me Too movement. Women will never get equality in this country unless they have men on their side saying, hey, you know, these are my sisters, these are my mothers, these are my daughters. I want equality for them. You know, you can't say, pay me this much money, but pay my daughter less money, or pay my wife less money for the same work. So you need people from the opposite to join the cause.
Mm-hmm. Great. Maria, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Daryl, for this great time with you. But I have quite a simple question, maybe been also partially responded. Going to the root cause on the psychological level, this fear of the white people in America, and maybe also here in Slovakia, they don't want their children, grandchildren to be brown. So how to address it, or how to better care of this fear that can become the destruction later? Because this will raise with this situation that there are more and more people, different origins that will be here. So what's the right thing to do according to you?
Education. But start the education. Don't wait to college. Don't wait to high school. Start it earlier in public schools, so that the kids are growing up learning about one another. And, you know, every day, And that's where you get it, because by the time you get to college, your minds have already formed a lot, and it's hard to change somebody's personality. It can be done, but it's a little bit harder than when you're with a child. Because, as if I had not had the travel experience as a child, meeting all these people from all over the world, I probably would not be doing this work today. But to me, that was my norm. That was the first thing I saw in school. So when I got back home, I didn't understand why there were not so many different people in my class. I'm glad my parents took me around the world. It was something that benefited me. I didn't realize it was benefiting me back then, but now I do. I see that. So we need to put that education early in school, not later in college. And I can tell you something that happens with me very often, not during the pandemic because people didn't travel, but before pandemic. I travel all over the country. I came to Slovakia to give a lecture. So I would say in this country, 2 or 3 out of every 10 times I give a lecture, I will do the lecture, I'll do the Q&A, and then 2 or 3 times out of 10, at the end of the lecture, there will be somebody, a student. Let's say I'm at a university. There'll be a student standing over there in the back. They're not doing anything. They're just standing around. And it's like they're waiting for something, because the crowd, they've come to the podium because they want to ask one last question, or they want to touch one of my robes or whatever. So he or she is waiting. When the crowd goes away, they will come down and they'll like look around, and they'll say, "Oh, Mr. Davis, I enjoyed your lecture. My mother is in the Klan, or my father is a neo-Nazi," and they're telling me this. And they say, I was raised this way, and, I come from wherever, and now I'm here at University of whatever, and my boyfriend is Jewish, or my girlfriend is Black, and I can't take this person home. My parents will kill me, or they'll disown me. I don't want to tell my friend because they'll drop me. So they have this secret that is burning on their chest, creating an ulcer, and they have to get it out. And I understand it, because they come from a neighborhood, an area, where everybody is homogenous. They go to the same school, they cheer for the same sports team, they vote for the same political candidate, they shop at the same store. Everything is everybody does the same thing. And now they come away, from high school, they come away to college. When they come to college, the neighborhood and high school don't come with them. At the college, there are high schools and neighborhoods from all over the country, all over the world. And they're seeing stuff that they never saw before in their neighborhood. They're learning that Jewish people don't have horns, and Black people don't have tails, and they're realizing, what I learned at home is not true. I'm experiencing these people, and they're not like what I learned. So how do I go home and tell my mother and father that they're wrong, and tell my friends in my neighborhood they're wrong? Unless they experience it, they don't know what to do. So their parents wanted them to go get an education, but not that education. So they want to talk to me about it. And that's, what I do. I sit down, I talk with them and give them some advice and things like that. So exposure, education is the key. And this is where we need to focus our money and our time and our efforts. Because if you wait too long, it's a waste of time. Let's do it now. It's better to start with a good habit than to try and break a bad one.
Yeah, that's very true. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. And Martin wanted to ask.
Sure.
Okay, so you have talked about Ku Klux Klan quite a lot. And as far as I know, but correct me if I'm wrong, Daryl, that Ku Klux Klan is quite old-fashioned organization for nowadays American white power skinheads and neo-Nazis. It is true?
Yeah, they're still around, but everything else has come out of the Klan. The Klan is like the granddaddy. Okay, you have the alt-right, you have the Proud Boys, you have this, that. but it all started with the Klan from 1865. It just evolved into other organizations. See, at one time, there were 4 million KKK members in this country.
Nowadays,
they don't give out numbers, but KKK by itself, there may be perhaps 10, I'd say between 10 and 20,000 maybe. It's not a whole lot, but overall white supremacy, the KKK, the neo-Nazis, the alt-right, the Proud Boys, the Boogaloo Boys, the Three Percenters, the Oath Keepers, the whole thing of white supremacy, you have over 100,000.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Is there any other question you want to ask? Eva and then Adela. So Eva first, go ahead.
Yes. Hello. First of all, thank you so much for all these interesting things that you told to us. And I'm working on the primary school and the secondary school, and I totally agree with your thoughts that the education and the primary and first education is very important, and this is the key for me. And now I must tell you that my very fresh experience in the school is that the most powerful enemy for me in the school is the convenience that nothing will ever change. We live as psychologists and maybe also teachers. Now this situation, maybe not also only in Slovakia, that nothing is possible to change. Whatever you do, in the end, nothing will ever change. And I only want to tell you that I'm very happy that I heard all these things from you, because if we lost, if we will not have this convenience, then the things can change, and they changed. We had the proofs, we have the history. Then we will have nothing, because the children are like, yeah, of course, maybe this comes from the families. Maybe this is the narrative of Slovakia now, and this is our enemy, and this is also something that is that we must be strong together and exchange this energy and this convenience that we can change these things. And this happened. This is nothing new. This happened all the history. So thank you very much.
That's right. Thank you very much. That's absolutely right. Because you know what? If we believed in this country that nothing could change, I would still be riding in the back of the bus.
Yes.
Or we would not have Obama
Yes.
in the White House.
Yes.
You know, we would not have a Black female vice president. The first one in 400 years.
Yes.
So change can happen. We have to believe in it.
I'm always thinking, for my generation, when I was very young, it was very normal to tell this joke that you can always beat a woman because she knows the reason for why, because she's not good. A woman cannot be good. It's always a sin. And this changed. This is not normal today to go in the public and to tell these things. So the things changed also in our lives.
Great.
Thank you, Eva. And Adela, please.
Yeah, I have only note, maybe for everybody of us, it's not some question, but you are American, and just looking and listening to the discussion of our debates in Slovakia, we are still having problem with this people racism, but it's against the same culture that in America, okay, you have Hispanic and so on, but they're almost the same culture. LGBT, they are the same culture. But I'm afraid that in Europe, we will have much difficult fight with different culture of Arabic people, immigrants of Arabic people, and I a bit aware that this will be much complicated, and we are not prepared for this.
Yeah, you know, we all have
I would say.
we all have our things that we discriminate against. Like, for example, in Northern Ireland, it's the Catholics and the Protestants.
Yeah.
Over here, it's no problem. Catholics, Protestants, they get along, they work together, they play together, no problem. In Lebanon, it's the Christians and the Muslims, and in Israel, it's the Jews and the Palestinians. You know, over here, it's blacks and whites, that kind of thing. I went to Poland. I was in Poland before the pandemic, shortly before the pandemic, to speak. And I went out and I had dinner with this lady, and you know, she was not a racist at all, but she was explaining the problems that were going on in Poland. And she said it wasn't a black and white thing; it was the Polish people and the people from Ukraine, you know, the Ukrainians. And I said, well, you know, the Ukrainians are white people, and of course the Polish people are white people. I said, you know, can you look over there at that table of people sitting over there? Can you tell from right here if they're Polish or Ukrainian? And she said, no. I said, well, then how would you know? She said, I have to hear them talk. And I hear in their voice and their accent, you know, they're from Ukraine or something like that. I said, okay, so then as long as people don't hear each other, they can get along fine. But then when people hear each other, oh, I must discriminate against them because they're from Ukraine, even though we look alike, you know, that kind of thing. So, you know, when you think about it, it's kind of crazy. It's crazy. Because people are taught racism. Racism is not innate. You're not born with it. You learn it. Discrimination is learned. So whatever can be learned can also be unlearned. My favorite quote of all time is called the travel quote. It's by an American author named Mark Twain. And Mark Twain said, travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. So when you stay in a little bubble and you don't see the rest of the world around you, this is a good breeding ground for discrimination. But when you travel and you allow yourself to see other people and other things, it erases the bigotry and prejudice.
Thank you very much, Daryl.
Thank you.
And thank everybody for your questions. And of course, we could sit like this and talk for another hour, but I know, yeah, you have probably different plans. So thank you very, very much. And it was extremely interesting. And yeah, we recorded this session. So for those who were not able to join for the whole session, this will be possible to enjoy again. So now I'm stopping the recording.